Today's masterclass video has 24 chapters on the most essential factors of structuring a fashion label. And all of these chapters are based on the personal experience of the founder of one of the fastest growing international fashion brand. So our special guest has joined us from New York, Meagan Ollari, who is the founder of Ollari brand, which is an elevated women's wear brand inspired by far-off places and ethnic treasures. She has showcased at both New York and London Fashion Week with multiple features in Vogue, Vanity Fair, and other fashion magazines. Fashion designers are very protective about their trade secrets, and today is the first time in fashion history that one successful designer is going to unveil all their trade secrets to protect young fashion entrepreneurs from shutting down. This masterclass has been created because of 4 factors. Many creative people, they want to have their own fashion brand. Now the second factor is most of them do not know how to create a fashion brand. The third factor is a lot of them, they think that by doing a fashion design course, they would be able to create their own fashion brand. But the fourth one is the most crucial one, because 80% of all fashion businesses, they shut down in 2 years of their startup. And 90% of the remaining 20%, they become invalid in 10 years. Now this result is quite evident. If you look at the proportion of the massive amount of design graduating every year versus the number of successful fashion designers. Now a business shutdown is a deep emotional setback for all the stakeholders, but it also constitutes to the decline of the country's economy. So as a design teacher, where I teach fashion design processes and business and supply chain, I have made this video so that all the young aspiring fashion entrepreneurs, they should get a holistic image of the fashion label structure. Now on this topic, I have done a lot of investigation through numerous interviews with successful fashion designers as well as with those designers whose business did not work. Now, there are many factors which constitutes into the success or failure of a business, but I would like to suggest one that is common to all these businesses. Fashion label is a business, but usually it is started by a creative person who has expertise in design, but who does not know enough about fashion business. And the fashion businesses which have become successful are actually started by those fashion designers who understand the meaning of fashion label, and they quickly make a team so that team is able to take care of the business side of the label. Hi Meagan, thank you so much for collaborating with me and creating this masterclass on how to structure a fashion label. So my first question to you is, what are the most essential skills to start a fashion label?
I feel like there's not one key skill. I feel like it's a combination of innovation merged with that sense of practicality and kind of this business mindset, right? So it's kind of like perfect marriage of, yes, I can bring innovation, newness to the table as a designer, but at the same time, I'm not losing sight of the fact that it is a business, right? And that we do have to be lucrative and profitable, and we do have to have that running capital and make, and make money and make that profit at the end of the day, right? Adopt customers, onboard new clients, and grow and scale. So it's not only about the art, it's about, which that's obviously essential, it's key, but also at the same time balancing that, okay, well, I know this is also a business and I have to take a step back and also say, I'm bringing innovation to the table, but at the same time, I understand that I have to, that this is a business, and I want this, I want that longevity. Therefore, you have to sort of say, I can also give you practicality, and I'm going to make money, and this will be a running business for me. So yeah, I do think it's a combination.
Okay, Megan, when did you come to know that you were actually cut to become a fashion businesswoman?
My journey was very much meant to happen in a sense. And it kind of led me on the path to entrepreneurship. I mean, ever since I was a young girl, 6 or 7, I started sewing and sketching, and so I always had that in my blood. Like it's just kind of in my DNA. I learned to sew. I got a sewing machine at 7. I would sketch, and I even made my own business cards when I was little, which is funny. It's like a very big foreshadowing of what I was to be at an older age. So I knew that I was really like this young girl that really didn't like to be told what to do. I had a strong point of view, and I kind of liked to, dance to the beat of my own drum in a sense, meaning that, I kind of just liked to sort of take control and to do things my way. But differently. I didn't like to be a follower. I think I was always, when I was younger, even in school, with friendships, with sports I've played and art classes and things like that, and things that I created, I was always in the leadership position, which I feel like makes sense now. But when I was little, I would just, like I said, I was always in my blood.
Okay, Megan, internship is the first time when a design student is encountering industry. So, what kind of mindset do you suggest that these students should have when they are going for their internship?
In college, I went to Academy of Art University in California. And then after college, I had my internship in New York. And so it was for a larger showroom that held multiple clothing lines. So it was actually mass market. So like your Forever 21s and your Nordstrom and your Urban Outfitters, Anthropologie. And then it also had smaller boutique lines, which is sold in like kind of higher end specialty boutiques around the country and around the world. So it was different kind of businesses, which I learned from an early age in my career. Practicality is key. Like how it hangs on the hanger, not only how innovative and beautiful this art is a beautiful creation that you just, that you sketch, that you sewed, that is now, an actual tangible item. It has to, feel good, like look good, be flattering. The fit has to be right. It has to look good on the hanger. It has to be, price conscious. It has to hit all these marks. So right from the gate, it was in my internship that taught me that practicality sense of the industry, as to, well, the customer needs A, B, C, D, E, F, G to also, in addition to what you're offering. So you're offering this item, this blouse or this dress, and it's beautiful and it's, and it's innovative and unique, but also it hits all these marks. So it really taught me that business side, or the sales side, the wholesale, and the doing trade shows and line sheets and costing and deliveries, deadlines, season. I mean, it really just taught me that yes, it's a very, like I said before, a very innovative um, industry, driven by creativity and ambiance and beauty, but also it's at the same time, probably even more so importantly, in alignment with that, it's also about, all these other aspects that you have to do to make the customer happy. and to have a thriving business. So that was, I think, the first time for me where I said, like I said, I feel like I was lucky because it felt like right off the gate of my career as an intern, I was like, okay, now it makes sense. And then slowly after a few years, as I was designing and, my designs were getting picked up by these larger retailers, and I was okay, like my sense of print and sourcing, and, we were sourcing through India. So I was sitting in New York and sourcing, through India. So of course we had the embellishment, we had the polycrepes, we had the, prints and, all the things that India is so, well known for and so great at. At the same time, it was, okay, well, can this hit their price points? And is this unique? Is it what they want? Is it for their girl? Is it for that age bracket? And can we deliver on time? In that window of the season, it was an eye-opener for me. To soaking up all that information takes time. I know I have creative, and I'm working on the practicality aspect and the business aspect that has all of these arms and legs, so yeah, I think that was the first time for me where I knew this isn't what I thought it would be, just constant fashion shows and constant, like, couture and beautiful clothes and models and glamour. It was really, rolling suitcases, like on the computer. It was just, sending out samples, taking photos, tech packs, sketches, swatches, and it wasn't all as glamorous and innovative all around as I think people do expect.
Megan, I have many students who want to start their own label by the time they're graduating. So, what do you think is the right time to start a label?
So I did not start my label right away after school, after college. I waited a few years. I actually, like I said, I was soaking in all the information for my internship. Then I was hired part-time, then full-time. So it was a good, I would say, about 5 years until I decided to take the plunge of starting Ollari. And those steps were just, I think when I felt ready, I think it was a mixture of feeling frustrated that I wasn't getting the recognition that I felt I deserved and needed. I wasn't getting the salary that I knew that, I was designing all these, like, bestsellers, and the reorders were 50,000 to 150,000 units. And, I worked with China, with India, with Taiwan, and, in terms of sourcing, and I traveled to Paris and London, and I just felt like it didn't really feed my soul in terms of, what I wanted to create. I think that when I was working for someone, it felt very safe, very, very commercial, very safe. But it did well because it was that hint of, it's different, it's unique, it's beautiful, it's innovative, yet it's comfortable, it's sellable, it's flattering, it hits the price points, all of the marks that I discussed before. So I really wanted to really wait.
So, Megan, this is again a follow up question because many design graduates they take a job after they graduate. So, what kinds of learning they can do at the job for their own fashion labels?
I remember, like, in the showroom, I just, like, every month they would have market week, and all the buyers would come into the showroom, and we'd have all new product, and we'd hang it up. And after the buyers chose, I would sit in on the meetings, listen, or if I was in the other room, I would always just, I mean, my ears were always open. And I think that was the thing that really did help me along the way, because not everybody is perfect, but I really did try to understand the faults of the owner, and also, like, what they did right, what they did wrong, what I can avoid, what can help me. It was really just to understand, like, what can I do, what shouldn't I do, what moves should I make to go to progress, and what should I avoid. So I just remember, like, I would be taking photos and doing the recap, and I just remember, like, literally I would just, like, be organizing hangers. I would just always take initiative and I just wanted to be in the room. I just wanted to be that girl in the room, like listening to like what the buyers are saying, how they worked, how the sales reps responded, what the follow-up tasks and responsibilities were, which I was, really, engulfed in all the time anyway. But yeah, I mean, it was just, I think in terms of that, I think that really catapulted my entrepreneurial journey, I feel. And yeah, I mean, when I did decide to finally take that plunge, I had the knowledge, I had the contacts, I had the design skills. I was manufacturing them, I was doing the tech packs, I was sourcing the fabrics, I was doing the photo shoots. I was 26 when I started it. And I felt ready. I had the time with my friends. I made my money working for other people. I was just tired of it. And I just wanted something better, bigger. And I really just wanted to finally realize my dream that ever since I was little, that's, to start my own label, Ollari. Obviously, that dream was always there. And also after years and years of just being entrenched in the business itself and designing for other people, understanding how the industry works, what to do, what not to do, and how I can lay that foundation for a clothing brand in terms of design, sourcing, manufacturing, investment, capital, marketing, showrooms, sales reps, costing, where, target market, all this. So it really did give me at least that foundational insight to say, okay, like I feel like I'm ready now. And yeah, 26, I started my line. And I remember I was launching it at New York Fashion Week for spring, summer 2016, I think it was. And the lady I was working for had found out that I was that I had my own line. I had started it. And again, I was doing it at home. I would just do my tech packs. I found a contact in India and I just started sourcing and I designed my first collection. And she had found out and she fired me. And a recruiter had called me and they said, Meagan, I got your, resume through, the grapevine. Are you interested in this position? I said, I am. However, I have to be completely upfront with you. This is what I have going on. And this is why my other job, my previous employer, let me go. He said to me, he's like, Meagan, I'll be honest with you. I feel like, what you're doing is a really big risk. It probably will never work out. So if I were you, I would take this job and forget about your little line that you're trying to do. And I was like, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I was like crying. I'm like, what am I gonna do? She's like, Meagan, just relax, and it was a time when I was like, oh my God, because I really was in a pickle. I felt like I was like kind of straddling the fence a bit, like, should I go back to a salary and be safe and be secure? Or should I take that risk and just keep pounding the pavement and keep doing it and keep going? And I obviously chose to keep going. But so that was interesting for me to really, I mean, that was one of the kind of negative experiences that I've had in terms of, people trying to pull you down and just really not support you. And kind of discourage your journey and your vision for what you want in life. So.
And Meagan, why do you think this industry learning is very important for fashion entrepreneurs? Why can't they just start when they just get out of their college?
I strongly recommend actually students or aspiring entrepreneur designers, creatives to work for someone in that realm before starting their own thing. I do think that anyone looking to start their own business, get their hands dirty a bit in terms of working for someone else and gaining that experience. I mean, college is great. They really do stretch you, in terms of push your boundaries and create and really just show everyone what you're capable of. And that's the time to really shine in terms of, what you can really, what your creative output can be. And without really, judgment, I think. But at the same time, it is a very different world when you step outside of that design education, platform, because you add in, the customers and all those real life scenarios of, it's not only your decision as a designer, it's your customer's decision and the buyer's decision and the investor's decision. And, there's so many cooks in the kitchen, you really have to balance. Like, it's a kind of this huge balancing act of what you can create, but yet, you have to appease other people, to align to that end goal, which is obviously success and being prosperous and being known. And like I said, I think one of my personal biggest turn of my career was really when I worked for someone else, because I felt like I was gaining that experience, and you're gaining those connections. I mean, there's really no cons of working for someone else before you step into your own business. It's all positive, because even if it's a really bad experience, you're like, well, I know what not to do as a leader. I mean, I remember too working for so many, people, of my bosses, and I remember how they treated designers. I mean, I remember a few times where they'd just be so hungry for a certain client, and they'd be like, do they? And they'd push you, they push you, they push you. And then when you showed the collection and the customer gave an order, or they gave great feedback, or they come visit, or everything was positive, they would just be like, oh, great. And then they wouldn't even give you any accolades. They wouldn't give you any. You felt so creatively discouraged, and you're like, well, I don't need a party and a balloons and a rate, but at least give me some encouragement and some accolades saying, great job, awesome, we did this together.
Megan, they say that industry is very, very cruel. Do they actually teach you leadership skills?
So I think that for me as a leader, I know to say, wow, to really encourage people that work for me or work with me, whether it's creatively or whether it's, on, even interns, I feel like everyone needs that boost, in sort of real time, when, especially when it's something where, would make someone really proud. That's just one example of a lesson that I learned of how to run a business as a leader, how to treat people that work for you, and how to keep them motivated and inspired, and really, and have that consistent momentum, in terms of having the experience. The more experience, the better, and the more well-rounded you are, it's really better for yourself. You can earn money, you can save it, you can invest it into your own business.
So, Megan, do you think industry also helps you in creating your network?
You're networking. I mean, I have people that I know that I still work with, or that I have connected with, that I used to intern for, and now I'm working with them on other levels. I'm kind of circling back to people that you're working with. If it's in that realm, in that field, you never know, in 10 years, they could be your client, they can be your investor, they can be your partner, they can be a customer, who knows, your buyer, so you never know. So also in the professional sense, I mean, there's just, like I said, there's so many pros to it. You're gaining experience, you're gaining real life knowledge, industry knowledge, you're gaining connections, you're, again, whether it's good or bad, you're gaining something out of it.
Megan, I have come across so many students who cannot work under anyone. It's impossible for them to report to someone. So what is the kind of advice that you want to give to them?
For students that, that maybe that you come across that may have issues with, kind of being under someone, and, having issues reporting to someone, I think that there needs to be a little less sense of entitlement, with especially creatives these days, because yes, we are creative and we love to do our things our own way. It's important to also have a sense of honesty and just being humble. You don't just learn by yourself. And if you keep yourself in a box, sort of isolate yourself or just think that you're so entitled and you're so better than anyone and you're so much smarter, more creative, and that's not going to get you very far, to be honest.
So, Megan, you spoke about industry teaching leadership skills. So, do you think that every entrepreneur should have, like, I'm the boss attitude?
For me, I'm very much like I'm this extrovert. I was titled bossy when I was little. Like I'm very like I boss all my friends around. Like guys, do this. You be here. You sit next to me. Like I was very bossy, and I was like this little girl. Oh my god, I was like cheerleading captain, bossy, and like. But I learned at a young age, like Megan, because people started not liking me when I was eighth grade, seventh grade for 13, 14, and then you're like you're not going to have friends and you're not going to you can't just go through life thinking that you're like this, and then that just really brought me back to earth. And I was, obviously, after that, I mean, thank God I changed. And it really, that sense, just being humble and just understanding that, you don't know everything, no one knows everything. Um, and we work better together. And even if you're learning from someone, even if they are 10 years ahead of you or 10 steps ahead of you, just be inspired by it, be motivated by it. Jay, but Rome wasn't built in a day. And it's true. Like, people literally, have these successes, but it takes so much time. And even the people that we look up to now, they didn't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to do it my way and I'm going to be this. No, they had to report to somebody. They had to, at one point in time, I think that all obviously too really strengthens your character. Like you can take orders, you can please people, you can follow directions, you can kind of operate within boundaries and guidelines and restrictions, and that's a good thing, having that balance of following directions and following guidelines, but then on the other side, um, knowing, okay, I'm capable of leading this team, of conceptualizing this project by myself, or jump starting something solo, and then delegating and micromanaging, and all these things are great. But I think like they say, everything is great in moderation. So I think a balance is key, in sort of identifying where kind of being in both places, being put in your place and also putting others in their place. I think that's a great balance to have, and to understand that that's really an integral part of being an entrepreneur, of being humble, and being able to identify and really like relate to other people, and to treat people with respect, and vice versa. So
Megan, tell me, how to work under a bad boss?
working under a bad boss, or someone that maybe you don't necessarily like, I think we've all been there. I've been there for sure. And you just, if it's off, if it really knocks your energy off, you don't feel like intuitively like you should be there, then don't. You know. And I think that's hard to kind of identify when you're evolving and progressing as an individual, as a human, but also as a creative. So, but it does, that does come around. I think for me, I did have, like I said, a few of those experiences, and you have to just kind of warrior through it, champion through it, and you'll get through. It does make you stronger, I feel, because like I said, then not how to treat your employees when you have or how to operate your business and your clothing line one day. I think everyone needs that tough love and those bad experiences, because no one goes through entrepreneurship or life with like a easy ride. It's not easy, because obviously everyone would be doing it. If you overcome it and just use it as kind of like a lesson, to what not to do and how to make you better as a person, as a creative, as a business person, altogether.
Okay, so now tell me, do you also think there are good bosses in fashion industry?
So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, there are amazing bosses out there that people can really be inspired from and learn from. I've had many, also many people that I've worked with or worked for in the past that I really looked up to in terms of how they balance their employees and their business. So of course, everyone in the fashion industry is not bad. I think that the reputation of the fashion industry is really tainted, in terms of this like snotty, kind of, too good for you attitude. And it's not like that. I think we're just a bunch of creatives looking for everyone to have their own voice and their own opinion. I think that every student, I mean, there's always that bad apple, So I think everyone has had a bad boss, but I think after that, there are so many strong, inspirational people in the industry that can really mentor you, and you could work. Yeah, right. Like you could, these people one day could be your investors. They could help you. They could see that you're an asset to their company, and they want to add you as a branch with your label, or they want to invest, or maybe their cousin or their friend is a buyer that kind of fits your niche of product. Like you never know. I've had people that I went to school with or that I worked for in the past, and they just pop up out of nowhere, and they've been such an integral part of my journey and stepping stones for me. So it's so possible. And just I think the bigger picture and the bigger lesson here is just treat everyone with respect, because you really never know where yourself and these people are going to be in 10 years. I mean, you guys could be working together. This could be a great working relationship in the future. So you never want to step on any toes, in terms of just making anyone uncomfortable or angry, or just, I think it all comes back full circle at some point in time. There are always amazing apples in the bunch too, not only the bad ones. So.
Okay, Megan, let's come back to the business conversation. What do you think is the most important factor in the fashion business?
The supply chain, yeah, it's an integral part of the business, and obviously, all around, to get your product from A to Z. But in terms of my experiences with supply chain and Ollari, obviously I'm from US. I've always worked with India, China, and Taiwan as well in terms of sourcing. Before Ollari, it's all been through India. And that for me was another eye opener, just kind of like this perfect outcome. When I started, working for other people, especially with this Indian manufacturer before I started Ollari, that's where I knew all the success, was with. I just felt very inspired by the fabrics and the colors and the prints and just what they could do, like what they were capable of, their capabilities of, all these techniques and embroidery and embellishment. And, it obviously goes on. But that really was just such a fluid match. And it was, it was perfect. So when I started Ollari, I knew I had to get some, manufacturer in India.
So when somebody has just done a startup, do you think it's easier to get suppliers?
So my sourcing journey is a little bit like of a roller coaster. It's very difficult. I was by myself. I was solo. I was looking for a factory to manufacture my little like non-existent baby line that, wasn't in stores. I was literally just starting from nothing. I mean, I literally found through a contact, I found a factory in Noida. And I started doing, my new collection for, my first collection for Ollari. So this was spring, summer 15 or 16 that I debuted at Fashion Week. So I did the whole gamut. I sourced, I designed, I sent them tech packs, I did the whole thing, fittings and all of that. So my first collection was through this factory. That did not kind of pan out for some reason or the other. I kind of forget why. But I felt that getting a solid, reliable manufacturer in India, or really even anywhere, was difficult. I was a small business. I was running it by myself. Not many people took me seriously. B, the costings were really, really high. I had low minimums. I would do a sample line, which cost me thousands of dollars. I also felt like I was being a little bit cheated in terms of what the pricing was because I'm white, because I'm American, and that was difficult to sustain for me. I had that. I had really no orders at the time. I was just trying to get that sample line going so I can show my samples, so I can give the factory orders. Just in terms of finding the right supplier, it was difficult. It was literally, I was so frustrated at some point where I was just, also too, I'm in New York. The time difference is 9.5, 10.5 hours, behind India. So it would take me a few days to even, it was always back and forth, but we would always lose a day in between sending packages back and forth, samples, reviews, approvals, all of this. So it was difficult. And I'm a person that likes to be in control and likes to micromanage, because I feel like I cannot do my best if I'm not in full control, if I don't have all hands on deck. So it was about 2014, I think, and I had not been to India yet. So I was working for an Indian manufacturer in New York, but I had never been to India. So I had like a 10-piece capsule collection that I was putting in some money for a small production. Now, mind you, I had no orders. I was just trying to really forecast, predict what would sell the best out of my sample line and meet the minimum. So at that time, it was like 100, units per color per style at the factory that I was working with. So I went in on it, but I had said, I'm really doubtful. I'm a little bit nervous to give this money over for the production. And I've never even met these people. I've never even been to India. I think as Americans too, sometimes we're in our bubble and we don't so much understand other countries. And at that time too, this was a little bit before this huge travel, trend of traveling everywhere and being this globetrotter. But ever since a young age, I personally have I've always had friends that are from Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic or, Colombia or India, Africa, Morocco, just literally everywhere. And everybody that I became friends with, when I was little, I would always want to go to their house and try their food and meet their family and see what I just was always so fascinated about other, by other cultures. So it was just really easy for me to get up and say, and just go and meet the guy who has been, making my production. So I had called my friend because I was nervous. I was like, I've never even been to India. I don't know anyone in India. I really didn't. So I called my friend Shauna, who I was friends with for my whole childhood, and I said, come to India with me. I have to go check on my production. So she's like, okay. So we booked a flight to India. We stayed for maybe 20 days, 10 to 20 days. And I saw the factory. Everything was, went to the, fabric markets, did the whole thing. Luckily, it was a really good experience, other than getting really sick, of course, which always happens to us foreigners. But other than that, in terms of professionally, it was good. It was a really productive trip. From there, I worked with this manufacturer for a while. He was really reliable. He gave me good prices. I felt we were friendly. I felt like he was, not really trying to get one over on me.
All right. So how do you get the best supplier?
I would go back to New York and then work on a new collection or try, and then go back to India. So every few months, I was picking up and going back to India. Every time that I would go to India, I would stay a little bit longer. I was in India visiting factories. I just kept building my network. I would meet people. They'd be like, oh, I know this manufacturer. I know this place. I'll take you here. That really helped me expand my network, meet new people, really kind of weed out the good, the bad, people that would help me versus people that I should probably stay away from, in terms of professionally.
What do you think is the root of a fashion business?
supply chain is the root of your business. So if your quality control is off, if your tailor isn't up to par, if you don't know how to grade, patterns, or if your pattern master is like off the map, then I think everything will fall apart. And I felt, in terms of supply chain, I felt like I could not be sitting in New York anymore with stuff coming to me that wasn't correct. Either the color was wrong, the embroidery was wrong, the fit was wrong, something was wrong, always wrong. And I felt like it's because I wasn't there, and when I was there, everything was perfect, like beautiful, perfect. I'm telling them yes, no, yeah, change this, do this, here's the, and sourcing and just being on the ground yourself and just picking fabrics and picking colors and being with, on the floor with the tailors and the pattern master, the beaters and things like that. And just literally, it was just night and day. It just helped me. I mean, I just knew, I like intuitively, I knew I had to be there full time. And I knew that my designs were there, but the execution had to be there. So, managing that supply chain from A to Z, from being in the fabric markets to like getting the guys like number, like text me like how many meters you have. I need 500 of this. I mean, and then going back to the factory and making sure the grading is right and the production, the costing aligns. I mean, everything. Now I'm shipping to international retailers, and the business is growing. So in terms of having that supply chain, having a solid foundation, knowing where your material is coming from, what the cost is.
So Meagan, tell me, what exactly creates your brand reputation?
Creatively, business-wise, in terms of product, I knew that if the product was not up to par, then the sales would never go anywhere. And I would ruin my reputation in 2 seconds.
Okay, Meagan, when somebody starts up, what kind of orders are good for them? The big orders, small orders? What is your advice there?
My lucky star is that I never got a big order at that time, because if one little mistake, I was Ollari, she's done. A Nordstrom or a Saks or an Anthropologie. And like I said, I at the time I was like really hungry. Like, I want orders, I want buyers, I want this. But my product wasn't there. Like that, the quality, the consistency, it wasn't there.
Okay, Meagan, we are talking about starting up a business. So, were you able to live lavishly when you started your business?
Running a business, I knew I had to save money, and all my money that I did have, I had to put into my business. So I had to really lower my living costs. So I mean, even if it was like my spending habits or my yoga class or my Ubers or my apartment in New York or my iced coffees, my Starbucks, I needed to bring myself back down to earth and say, Meagan, like you're running a business. So you can't be living like freaking Mariah Carey when you're trying to get somewhere. So I knew, obviously all my money had to really go. And so to really decrease my living costs, India is, much cheaper.
So, Meagan, with your conversation, it appears that there are so many things that somebody needs to oversee. So, do you think that entrepreneurs should be micromanagers?
For me, I think my micromanaging skills played in my favor. I think, it really just forced me to say, hey, look, I've got to look at all aspects, not only design, but I've got to do everything to make sure that it's up to my standards and that it's something that I can ship to a client where I know they'll come back, where I know they'll be impressed, where I know that they understood it's really designed and nurtured with love and passion, and it's coming the designer herself, and she's there on the ground running, sourcing in the supply chain. And if your product is made with quality, with meticulous detail and innovation, yet practicality, I mean, all of these different components, then it's sure to be a success. But if, as an entrepreneur, if you think you're going to sit at home and not be involved, not on the floor sweating and crying and
So, Meagan, I'll again come back to those talented designers who really stress on creating a out of the world design. But a lot of time in that whole creativity, they compromise on the quality. So, what is your advice there?
Because if your quality, if your product is not up to par, no one's going to buy it. They might buy it the first time, but that's not going to help you grow. And they'll X you out and say, no, thank you. And then next time you have nobody, right? And then so you've got to having that integrity as a designer and understanding that quality is your biggest asset, and quality control and controlling, all these different components of your business, especially the making of the product, because the product is obviously the foundation of every brand.
Meagan, what I've seen is design students, they are creative as well as very emotional, and they really get demotivated on any kind of breakdown. So, what is your advice there?
We have problems all the time with fabric being late, or fabric not the right color, the print is off, or the lead time's too long for the buyer, or the price is too high. But you've got to, being solution oriented, boom, you figure it out. You figure it out. And when you're on the ground, it makes it much easier to really tie up those loose ends, and to really offer those solutions, or really to sort of see what you can do best to accommodate your order or your buyers or your and your customers. So I think being involved and being heavily engaged and on top of it all the time is really vital for any business.
Okay, Meagan, tell me why it is very important to build a team.
So team building, yeah, it's super important. Finding someone that you can trust and that you know has the same vision. But I remember, my grandpa said to me one time, no one's going to work as hard as you. No one's going to have your vision. And it's funny because I've been looking for someone that literally has the same passion, the same love, and the same dedication as I have for my brand. But I think in reality, unfortunately, that's not realistic. I think that, yes, you can find amazing people to build your social, to write your blogs, to, stitch your garments, to, shoot your photo shoots, do your line sheets, X, Y, Z. And I'm kind of learning myself to let go a little bit and to let people, do their jobs. I did have burnout because I was involved, as you mentioned, in everything. And it got to a point where, I was sick every few months. I had a fever. I was just running around at factories, at markets, at social, like running interns, the same time, trying to like mentor them and teach them. And then I'm teaching, and then I'm, it's just, I'm talking to my sales rep, then we're showing new presentations, and I'm designing. So, and all of that, I'm also supposed to be creating the product because I'm the designer. So that was also taking a back seat, where I was actually putting these less important things in front of me. And I remember reading a book one time. It's one of my favorite books. It's called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And he talks about highlighting your core genius and focusing on your core genius. So in my case, my core genius is design and creating. And that is obviously the showstopper of my business. It's a product, obviously. If you don't have new, fresh product, new designs, dresses, sketches, whatever, then what is Ollari? It's nothing. So I was for a long time battling with all of these different tasks and responsibilities. Yet I had to kind of come back to focus and say, well, my core genius is this, and to focus on that. Otherwise, all these other elements weren't going to be successful, and they weren't going to get, accomplished or completed without that core product. So yes, team building is essential. These company cultures that are unique and fun and engaging and motivating and inspiring. And that's what I want to create, a really uplifting, empowering environment for people that I work with, that they feel appreciated and motivated.
Meagan, I've seen a lot of young designers who get very, very demotivated when their collections are not received well by their clients. So, how do you tackle that situation?
especially in the beginning, when my original identity, it wasn't that it wasn't being received well. I think it was just that I wasn't getting it in front of the right eyes. Number one, I think also two, I wasn't a brand. So again, this thing of people not taking you seriously, it takes some time for you to really build that rapport and build that trust and build that presence as a designer, as a brand, as a company, as as a whole. Well, I misconstrued that in my head in the beginning of showing my collection, that it wasn't being received well because it wasn't in front of the right eyes, or because I was new, or both probably. But I misconstrued that in my head. This is not the right product. This isn't selling. For example, I had one showroom that I was showing with, they were representing me. And there's this one brand that they've been representing for years. They're in LA. But I remember him just telling me, can you just like throw in like 3 solid camis and like 1 tee? And like in my mind, I'm like, oh, like really? I did it. I mean, I did it because I wanted to, maybe this would make me skyrocket into like success. But after a while, I would realize that doesn't work either, because, it wasn't hitting. I just realized, that I just need to stay true to who I was, because when I was doing that, even though it took time, it wasn't just like that. It looks more like it makes sense, and it was doing really well for me.
Okay, Megan, tell me, how were you able to create such distinctive brand at such a young age?
To create the distinctive identity of Ollari. So I think just sticking true to who I was as a designer, as a visionary, as a woman. In my mind, I'm like, I want to do something this way, but since they're the professionals or they've been doing it longer, I'll listen to them. And it turns out I'm not always right, but most of my intuition and my ideas and my strategy and what I would do turns out to be the right fit for me, because I know what's best for myself and my business. And so yeah, of course, people have helped me along the way, and some of them have given me amazing advice, amazing guidance, amazing strategy that has changed the course of my business. But also a lot of the times too, it was always inside. It was always there, where I knew, just follow your intuition, follow what what you feel is right, and naturally, compelled to create or to show, and it will all align, I think. And that's how I kind of came to this identity, that, or to kind of have this consistent identity where I know what my taste is, and what my vision is, and what, and what I'm capable of, and just believing in that and making sure that that's consistent and aligned with my customers. I think it's a combination. I have my aesthetic and my vision in this, but also also listening, what is the customer telling you? Like, what's the best seller? How can we make that the next best seller, right? Like, is green working? Is fuchsia working? Is, really listening, asking and listening, and just being in tune with what your customer is saying, or like what their body language is, and how they're reacting to your product, to your prices, to your listening to your inner intuition, and just understanding that this is you only know what's best for you. And not, this is not to say don't take help from outside. Of course, we all need that motivation, or that expert advice from someone that may have better insight than you, who may have been there, done that. But I think too, if it's your business, you know the vision.
Now, Megan, this is one of the most crucial questions of these masterclass. How can a brand identify their client, and how to satisfy them?
So how an entrepreneur can identify a client? I feel it's just really through, I think, just getting out there, putting yourself out there. I think for me, it's been doing like pop-up shops and markets, and like different markets, where I'm personally, physically interacting with the customer and knowing what they're choosing. I'll watch them, what fits them, what speaking to them, where are they from, what do they do, where are they going, what are they looking, what occasion are they shopping for? I mean, really, all of these little things. It seems so little and like minute, but it really is. It's such a integral part of, you know, their buying process, which is a huge part of you as entrepreneur, as a creator, knowing who your clients are, you know, and how you can better serve them and how you can keep them coming back and how you can expand your market. But you know, at first, I think when I started Ollari, I think I might have, in my business plan, my first business plan, I put like 18 to 35 or something buying. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with knowing that it was stretched more than that. And it was not only a girl in Miami, New York, and LA, it was, you know, people in Delhi, in Sydney, Australia, in Taiwan, in, like, you know, all over the world. You know, like, you really cannot understand your target customer unless you're interacting with them. Huge part of what I do too is I'm customer service. You know, I'm like, hey, you know, can you send me this? These are too small, these are too big, or, you know, the fabric, you know, is great. I love the hand feel, or just knowing, like, it's things like that, like sizing. You know, what size, you know, what sizing works best. You know, do I sell a lot of larges? Do I sell more extra smalls, mediums? What countries buy what colors more? You know, where maybe on the West we like brighter colors, and maybe in the East they're a little more insecure about wearing brighter colors because, you know, of their skin color, or their, like, these are some things that I've come into contact with. Not saying that, just speaking and communicating with your customer, whether it's if they want to try a new style, if, like, you know, putting a pull up on your Instagram. But for me, I'm just like really old fashioned with just being in front of my customers, kind of like, you know, Diane von Furstenberg did, you know, back in the day, when she was like literally selling her stuff in a department store, and she had all her, you know, that's just me. I sell online, yes. I sell through social media, yes. Do I love it? Do I think it's like the best for my business model? No, because even as a consumer myself, I prefer to be in the store, trying, touching, feeling, smelling, being involved in that experience before making a purchase. So I do love that intimate relationship with my customers and understanding what they're liking, what they're not liking. You know, I have a dress, like, last week I was doing a pop-up shop here in the US, and I have a dress where I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. But, like, is it just that I think it's cute? It sold out like every size. So now I'm like, all right, like, now I get it, you know? So now, like, I'm you know, inhaling that information, and I'll, you know, use that, and, you know, utilize that for my next collection, or do you know, or use another color that's selling really well for me in a different fabric in that body, or just understanding. And just, I think it's just really all about communication and just really being open to constructive criticism and understanding what your customers like, what they dislike, and not being too emotionally tied to something. Because I think as creatives, as artists, we're like, you know, I think at one point I literally would just like design stuff, and like I would just hang it in my showroom, and then, like, when someone bought it, I would kind of be sad because it's my creation. But then obviously as a businesswoman, you're like, okay, great, money's coming in, like, we're turning it around. So you know, I think, you know, understanding your customer and being, for me, what's worked best for me, understanding who my target market was just being in the trenches and just literally being involved, speaking to customers, and understanding what their shopping habits are. And, you know, if they're like, for example, if they're with their boyfriend or husband, they're always like, hey, you know, babe, do you like this? And if the husband or boyfriend doesn't like it, they won't buy it. You know what I mean? Like, things like that. So it's like, okay, so actually these men have a say, and I'm like eyeing them like, you better say yes. No, but you know, um, so, you know, being just noticing, like, how they move, and always doing that physical in person and getting that feedback, or even, you know, I suggest doing like focus groups, you know, getting a focus group. And I know it's hard for budding entrepreneurs to understand who their target customer is. Once they start selling, is when they'll understand all of that core information that they'll need to better their business and to expand.
Okay, Meagan, my concluding question would be, how can someone formulate a powerful brand vision?
I think we all have to obviously formulate our brand vision. And that, of course, I think comes with time. I think my brand vision for when I started is not the same as today, because I think when you're working with non-tangible information, right? Like, it's not like, as I mentioned before, you're selling, and like, you actually know in real time, in real life, you know what's selling, what's not selling. These are real humans coming to buy from you, giving you real money in exchange for a real design, right? So like, these are, but in terms of, a vision, I think it's just trial and error, really understanding that you will evolve, you will progress, this too shall pass. Whatever your vision is, something that, again, I think goes back to intuitively what you feel organically compelled to create, and not letting other outside influences or voices navigate how you operate your business or how you design. In terms of Ollari's brand vision, it's just to really empower women with our clothing and make them feel beautiful and the center of attention, and very much like, that they are in a unique piece of clothing that's not going to empty their bank account, something that they could wear and be seen. And why really is for Ollari, because we hate to look like everyone else. We want to stand out. We want all heads to turn. And that's the kind of woman that I target, because in a sense, I am that woman that I like to walk in a room and demand attention. And I know that, respectfully, or, I'm empowered, and I feel the part, and I'm being viewed as that part as well. So that's, who that woman is, not just someone who wants a t-shirt and denims and just walk in sneakers. No, she's wearing, embellished and embroidered and quality and novelty, and, in a flattering silhouette, but comfortable and practical, and affordable to a point where it's quality, but it's not going to break her bank account. Brand vision, I think it's something that organically comes to you.
Thank you so much, Meagan, for sharing this inspirational, insightful, and very informative story about this mega brand Ollari that you have founded. And responsible designers like you are actually transforming the otherwise snobby image of fashion industry. And we would be reconnecting soon for more masterclasses like this. Hope all of you gain some insight from this masterclass series. If you want to have more insights on fashion industry, please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. And for online classes, do write me up at gauravmandaldesign@gmail.com.